Welcome back to the next section of Traefik Training. In this section, we're going to go further with the lab and the routing and services troubleshooting lab. If you remember back to the previous lab, we actually deployed Traefik with the CAT app, but the CAT app started producing an error. We saw in the Traefik dashboard that it started producing a router error. And we are going to discover why we're receiving that error. We're going to look in the logs on the Docker side. We're going to look in the dashboard. And we're going to resolve this error. So this is a common error that comes up. So let's walk through how we can discover and fix this error. All right, if we go back to our dashboard, you can see that we have our dashboard here. Oops, there we go. If we have our dashboard, you see we have one error here and it's just not happy. So let's go to our console. And here we're actually going to do Docker service ls. And by running this command, you see all the services running in our swarm. And we want to see Traefik_Traefik. We want to see the logs from Traefik. So how we do that is Docker service logs and then the name of the service, Traefik_Traefik. And we see the very last line here, error message, and it says cat app at Docker does not exist. Entry point web, router name, cat app Docker. Well, that's leading us in the right direction. So it's really saying that, the router is trying to connect to this service, cat app Docker, but it's just not there. So let's find out why it's not there. Let's head back to our dashboard and we can go to our router and you see the cat app service is just not happy, right? Or the router is not happy. Let's go in here and you can see the exact same error that we saw in the logs. The service cat app does not exist. But if we click on the service itself, cat app service, you can see service not found. Okay, we're getting somewhere, it doesn't find that service. So that's really the issue, is the router can't find the service. So let's go to HTTP services. There we go. So Traefik cat app -1 random generated name at Docker. So Traefik assigned a name to this service for us, but it doesn't match the service name that we have. So that's really the issue here. So we have our cat app service running. It seems healthy, it's happy, but it's not mapping to the correct router. So that's the issue, is the router does not see the service. And this is something common that I've experienced a few times in the field, and it's just something where you make a typo, you type the service name wrong, or you forget something and it doesn't see the service. So let's take a look at our configuration once again. So let's head back to our command line and let's look in the Docker compose file. And if you remember, we didn't uncomment the last line, which is this one here, the Docker Traefik HTTP services cat app.load balancer.server port equals 5000. If we uncomment that line, that actually fixes everything, because then it tells the router to actually connect to port 5000, as previously it was trying to connect to cat app, probably port 80, and it couldn't find port 80, so it just created a new name trying to find if this new name works, which it obviously doesn't. So by determining exactly what port is being used in our application, it will fix the service router connection. So go ahead and make this change. Let's save our changes. And now let's deploy it again. So Docker stack deploy -c docker compose.yaml Traefik. Oops, if I spell Traefik right, there we go. So we're updating our service. Okay, everything updated just fine. Let's take a look at the logs quickly. Docker service logs, Traefik. And we will see the same error over and over, but it's not refreshing because that was the last entry in there. And we don't see any new errors popping in here, so that's good, because if we saw new errors, we'd see an additional line here. So we don't see any additional lines. So let's go back to our dashboard, and now everything is happy. We have 4 services now, so let's look at our routers. There's our happy host cat app localhost, connected to the web front end, cat app at Docker, and the service cat app. Now, if we look at the service itself, you can see here, everything is happy. If we head back to our browser, cat app.localhost, and we refresh, we have random GIF cats once again. So brilliant. We fixed our issue. So that's resolving the issue of routers not being able to connect to services. And it's something that comes up once in a while. So it's a good exercise to look in the logs as well as go through the dashboard, because both of these tools will help you discover where the issue is. Now, this is a unique situation because we introduced this error on purpose, but we can also be very flexible in the fact that we can tell Traefik, hey, I want you to determine all these values for us. So this is actually the next section in our documentation. If we go back to our documentation, make everything dynamic. And essentially we just want to remove all the lines past here. So we want to move the service and the load balancer line, and then Traefik will actually create everything for us and create the randomly generated router name and the service name, and it'll marry them together just fine. So let's try that quickly. So let's look in our Docker Compose yet again, and we are going to comment out the service name and the load balancer name, and we are going to deploy this once again. All right, let's look at the logs, Docker service logs, Traefik, and we don't see any new errors in there. If it was an existing error and we started again, you should see it reappear in our logs, but we're not seeing it reappear, so that's a good thing. Let's head back to our dashboard, refresh, go back to the front page here, and everything seems healthy again. But now you can see cat app localhost, cat app docker, and the service is a randomly generated name. So here you go, service cat app there. And so it's basically made the connections. If we go back to here, it still works. So if you leave Traefik dynamically resolve everything, it will do it. It'll just assign random numbers to the names. Now, I always like, as best practice, naming everything, because it's so much easier to find and query and things like this. And every time you scale out your instance, it also is found no problem. So just better housekeeping if you name it. You can definitely just let Traefik do it, but I am more under the impression to keep shorter names, easier to read. So just go with that approach. But both approaches work. So you can choose, and that is how to let Traefik handle it dynamically. So that's all for this section. We successfully fixed our Traefik instance. So we are running again. Our cat app is running. We are able to also dynamically let Traefik assign a service name and a router connection, and that also worked. So we have successfully completed the lab of deploying Traefik, adding labels, fixing the issue, and also dynamically letting Traefik handle these services as well. So join me in the recap in the next section, where we can really just kind of refresh what we covered in this section.